Welcome to episode 149 of Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin. He is Dustin Edwards, and we are back. It's middle of summer. It's already August. Once again, Canadian summer is almost over.
Goes quick.
Yeah, it doesn't take long, does it?
No.
Okay, so where you been, Dustin? What's been going on, and what's next before the end of the season here?
Oh, had a big run. Went out to Morris, Manitoba for the first time.
Yeah,
That was super cool. Saturday perf, they had 7,000 people
what at the rodeo?
At the rodeo.
No shit.
They
shit.
they had security and they had to shut down their ticket offices because they didn't have a single wristband left to get in. They had people manning the gates, and people were offering them bribes to try and get in to watch the rodeo. One 14-year-old girl was offered $1,000 cash to let 5 people in to watch the rodeo.
What?
Which I was thoroughly disappointed about, because had I known,
I would have.
they would have been sitting on the bucket. Hell, they could have sat on a bull.
They could have sat with me in the announcer stand. Actually,
it was pretty wild out there, man. I'd never been there. The committee was great. They fed us brisket and drinks, and it was a pretty wild party. Like they ran the whole grounds out of booze on Saturday night.
Holy shit!
And I think they were just going to liquor stores and getting whatever they could. So I heard at the dance on Saturday they were just serving like whiskey was all they had left.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a really cool event. Yeah, they were so hospitable, picked us up at the airports, drove us around. Really nice committee. It was
That's awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of them had Cowboy Shit lanyards on their accreditation passes from like a Western store in that area or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Probably from the only place close by would be the Canada West Boots, like the factory outlet.
Yeah, so maybe that's where they got them.
No way, they already had them.
Yeah.
So had they been listening to the show?
Well, I said, "Are you a fan of the show?" And she goes, "Oh, I bought this at the Western store."
Yeah.
I must have bought a bunch for everybody. He's one of the committee members.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it was super cool. Really cool. And then
thanks, Morris. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So Morris was awesome. Then went from there to Medicine Hat Stampede, which was cool. Got to catch up with Bo Cooper, our last guest.
Oh, yeah. And he said people had been listening.
Yeah. He'd said he heard lots of reviews about the show, and hell, he's already trying to petition to get on another episode.
Back on again.
I said, you go to Vegas and you win something shiny.
Yeah, then we'll talk to you.
So I had a visit with him and his mom, and yeah, his mom's like, "Yeah, I've listened to it a few times already," and so that was really cool. I heard lots of cool reviews on the Bo Cooper show while on the road. Medicine Hat banged out 3 perfs. We finished up Saturday afternoon. Vanilla Ice took over.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
He was in Calgary on Friday and Medicine Hat on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently he just like sang some tunes and then like had a DJ booth on the stage and let people come up on the stage and just party.
Really?
Yeah.
No
way. They had Joe Nichols the night before.
No way.
Me and Dave and Allie elected to go to the Beefeater
instead,
which is a really good steakhouse.
Yeah.
And Joe Nichols got put on the back burner. So.
Well, that's okay.
Yeah.
You'd be cool to be a fool to not.
That's true.
Not go to the Beefeater.
I was just worried tequila was going to make my clothes fall off that night. So, yeah, we went to the Beefeater. Real famous.
But you didn't end up at Broken Heartsville, did you?
No, I did not.
That's good.
No, Allie was there. She warmed my heart. Let me have a steak, and me and her and Dave had a little date night.
That's fun.
Dave Paulson, and then we slingshotted into the Bruce Stampede on Sunday.
Yeah.
So Bruce was a huge success. We ate. I want to say we dusted out. Do you know what? We went all in on the Viking dogs.
Oh, okay.
The Viking wieners.
Oh, yeah.
So of course that's the famous hot dog. They delivered us numerous amounts of Viking wieners. Now they didn't come with condiments, so I actually took over music directing for a bunch of the barrel racing.
Oh, really?
So that podcast editor Sean Morton could make a catch-up run. These are things that are very important when you're in Bruce, Alberta, folks.
It's nice you can do that. That's
awesome. And then like Robbie Chomick, who you know and is a good friend of ours, he delivered us up ice cream sandwiches and revels.
Oh, really?
So we did about as much eating as we did work.
Possibly as much as you possibly could
on this show. And
that's awesome.
I'll tell you what, Bruce never disappoints. Ricky Ticky's there, and we have lots of fun. And we're telling stories up in the booth, and the Bronc Riders were there from Hardgrass,
from Pollockville the night before, which was also great.
Yeah, and they showed up there on Sunday, and they were in one.
Well, one time I went to Pollockville and people didn't go to bed there.
Yeah,
partied like all night,
and of course
didn't even go to bed.
I'm sure we'll talk about it. Ben wins. They're
Yeah,
all there.
Ben
Logan,
Epson.
Ben, all that whole
Yeah.
crew. So they're in front of the chutes. There's 2 sections, right? They're not.
You
they're
said
in
there
the
was
second-
35 bronc riders there.
Yeah,
They had
insane.
all the Policos in Bruce the
Pretty
next day.
much. Yeah, Leon Fountain was 88, set the arena record at Bruce this year. Ben rode in the sheepskin chaps.
chaps.
One in
Yeah.
Hardgrass. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those guys were all having a time. I don't know if it was
Jeez.
it was carrying on. I think it was.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was probably one of the funnest Bruce Stampedes. Just the whole atmosphere was a ton of fun.
Oh, really?
They built us a new shitter behind the announcer stand. Beautiful barnwood outhouse.
Yeah.
So I said it's been 108 years of that one outhouse, I think, and
Yeah.
so that was a big win. Dalton Massey, #1 man in the world, was 3.1 arena record. Like Bruce was happening, man.
Really?
It was damn
What was
cool.
the payout in Bruce? People win a lot of money there?
Well, because there was so many people, I think it was actually pretty good.
Really?
Like I think to win the Bronc round was probably a couple grand, which in years
Jeez.
past we've seen it be like $700. But yeah, me and Sean had a good time. Announced with Tyson Peach, Brenda Vold, Sharon Olson was there.
$1,400
Yeah,
for the bronc riding.
yeah,
Steer wrestling, $1,600.
yeah.
Dang,
Tied on
look at
roping paid $2,000 for Dubes
that.
there.
No way.
Yeah, who we talked
Dubesy,
about on the
Mr.
show.
August.
Jed Lambert, he wins $1,100.
Really?
So pretty damn cool. And our good friend Monty Phillips, friend of
Yeah.
the show, it's his last Bruce Stampede. Been going there for 13 years. So we did a little send off to him at the end, which was cool.
Really?
And
Oh, that's fun.
yeah, it was just like, because we got some Bruce Stampedes where you're coming home late at night and you're thinking, man, that was a long day.
Yeah.
And it always is, but they banged it off.
I didn't even get a shout out on the music director for Hardgrass.
What?
Look at that.
We got to make a call.
Didn't get it.
We got to make a call.
What's that about? People got something out on me? Wonder if the music director made Medicine Hat. No, did not make the cut.
Darn.
Well, I mean, hey, like I guess I'm in the same league as the guy that did Medicine Hat, so that's fine.
I plead the fifth on this one.
Oh man. Yeah, I didn't even get a. What the hell?
We're going to make a call here.
That's too bad.
Let's call the higher ups.
Secretary Catherine Laycraft. Huh. Okay.
Well, even though you weren't on there, Ted, you sure did a good job. We
Maybe.
tuned into the whole show on Cowboy
Maybe.
Channel, and it was great. I'm sure you're collecting your check from that via the Cowboy Channel.
Hey, speaking of that,
That was my segue, Ted.
Yeah. So speaking of that, what if I made Pinoca at least? No, didn't make it.
No.
That's too bad.
They did put the
They
janitor.
put all 1, 2, 3, 4. They put all 5 photographers, but I didn't make it.
But these are card holders, Ted.
Yeah, and I'm not a card holder. It's funny. I probably do almost as many pro rodeo as anybody else. But I was in Cheyenne, and the music director there, Cheyenne Frontier Days. Yeah, so it's one more thing. So
Yeah, talk about that.
Check out my hat here,
It's a beauty.
right?
The daddy.
The daddy of them all. So we went to Cheyenne for the first time. My friend Austin Lopman, though, music director in Cheyenne, he was like, "Hey man, like you did a great job in Pinoca or whatever," and I'm like, "Oh, thanks." My name wasn't on the results, but I'm glad you knew it was me. But he's like, "Yeah, like you guys get paid for the Cowboy Channel stuff too." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "No, what do you mean? The Cowboy Channel pays the music people? Really?" That would make a lot of sense because we like are part of the broadcast and we like put out the audio to the broadcast. Like that would make sense if the audio and music person got paid. It's like, no, I don't get paid. He's like, oh, we get like $300 US, like a show. And I'm like, a perf. I'm like, oh, really? Be a nice extra $2,400.
So do the announcers.
Pinoca. Yeah,
Because
we don't get paid enough
Cowboy Channel would struggle to sell subscriptions
if they didn't have
if
any
the
audio on the
rodeos
shows.
were silent.
Yeah.
And I believe, and I know there was something with Flint bringing it up. I think the clowns do get paid.
Probably should. They definitely should.
Yeah, and I think Denny Halstead said they do down there. There was years even like there was some Wrangler Network stuff that if you were announcing,
yeah,
you
those
got
guys
paid
paid.
for. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I think that Cowboy Channel would struggle to sell subscriptions if it was a mute feed.
Yeah.
But the Americans are all getting paid down there. I can confirm that.
Yeah.
I've done a couple now on the Cowboy Channel. I haven't got my check.
Yeah. So we're
And I haven't had anyone reach out to ask where to mail it to yet.
Yeah, me neither.
So Patrick
if you know-
Gotch, if you're
Hey, so-
listening,
I know I'm not on the results, but I was there.
we were
so-
there.
Just
And but it's funny you bring that up because we should be getting paid.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
because
Absolutely.
those would be tough to watch if they
And I mean,
if
hey,
they
like I know this show's coming out after Strathmore, but we're recording this before Strathmore. And hey, if the audio just happens to go out during Strathmore, it might be some sort of a protest. You never know.
you never know. Protesting for us all,
You never
Teddy.
know.
I'd
You never know.
it would sure be a nice little extra little chunk of change.
Well, especially when we're providing them the content,
Yeah.
right?
And like I don't think it's obviously not mandated, but me and Dave have worked the last 2 tour rodeos together on the
Yeah.
Cowboy channel.
Yeah.
And we elect to, welcome the viewers, and we in fact we talked about this at dinner. We change our styles a little bit
You have to.
so that, if someone's watching, they're not like, this guy's not just yelling into a mic, announcing, screaming at
The
me
live
for 2
rodeo.
hours like you would at a
Yeah.
live rodeo. We didn't have a clown at either one. So when we had gaps, we got very
You didn't
conversational
have
so
much
that
music at the first or at the second one either.
no, we didn't have any music.
Yeah.
So if we didn't talk, it was completely silent. You could
Yeah.
hear people in the grandstand
Yeah.
talking. So
Man.
we tried to make it conversational. So if you were watching at home, it was like watching when we broadcast the CFR together.
Yeah, which is what should be, yeah.
So, hopefully they recognize that, and maybe they'll send us a few shekels.
Maybe they'll help
Here's
pay
a-
for your next meal at the Beefeater.
Yeah, I got a lot of Viking hot dogs to
They're
cover.
on my credit card, and I gotta cover that next month.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we also had Kelowna, had a great show in Kelowna, Prospera Place. That was, I guess, like right. It was before we did put out the last show on the 26th. So yeah, like July 20th. But had a really good show there. Had a bit of a wreck. William Barrows broke his femur off. That was pretty rough.
That can be very scary.
Yeah, as
Femurs can
you
be
know
bad.
from your
Yeah.
first responder days,
You get an artery or something, you're in
you're
big
kind of
trouble.
hosed. Yeah. But yeah, it was real bad. So Williams out the rest of the season. We'll look to see him back next year. But we had a huge break to fill. So Brinson and I had to go and cover like a pretty large chunk of the show and try and keep people going. So we, Brinson and I and Brett Gardner, obviously Dave Polson was in Kelowna as well. He flew right to Brandon right to Winnipeg the next day to make Morris. So yeah,
Jake Gardner flew in together, and we
Yeah.
all headed out to Morris.
yeah. So quite a big gap there, but we got her filled up.
That's when you see the
Stuck
value
around.
of what you guys do as music directors.
Oh yeah, and
Brinson as an
Invaluable.
entertainer. That is when you earn your money.
It didn't even feel like there was a break hardly.
Yeah.
Just rock and rolled the whole way through it.
And
So.
Brinson was in Cheyenne too, was he not?
Yeah, he was there on Monday. Yeah, so
cool.
I saw him Thursday in Kelowna, and then like 2 days later, 3 days later, Monday in Cheyenne. So that's kind of neat to see him in a couple different places. But Matt, the intern, was in Foremost as well. Got to have a shout out to Jess Cowie and the crew there in Foremost. Lane LaPlante also was there a couple days as well. But yeah, Matt finished it up. Thanks to the crew for helping Matt and helping him tear down, get all the gear out, back in the truck, get him on the road.
Do they still do the catch and keep at Foremost?
I don't know that. I have to ask Matt. We should have called Matt and got him on the show.
Yeah.
Like, hey Matt.
Yeah. Ask him if he caught or kept. That's where they would turn out like all the random farm animals at the end of the proof on Sunday night and catch and keep.
Yeah.
Cats,
pretty fun event.
Dogs,
I don't know what it was,
ducks.
but yeah, some fun stuff.
Yeah.
High River Chuck Wagons, 2 weeks of Chuck Wagons there. Friend Steve Johnson was at the show. Steve run the show there with Les.
Jamie Laboucaine was the winner.
Yeah, so good stuff there. But yeah, and then we have another Cooper on the show this week. So thanks to Ross Cooper for joining us. Check out his tunes on the Spotifys and iTunes and all the jazz. And back with our interview after this. Thanks for joining us. Once again, this is Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin. He's Dustin Edwards. Thanks for tuning in. All right, welcome back to episode 149 of Cowboy Shit. My name is Ted Stovin. He is Dustin Edwards, and we are joined this week by a second-generation rodeo cowboy and musician, originally from Lubbock, Texas. Now he's in the hipster part of Nashville. Please welcome Ross Cooper.
What's up, y'all?
Well, you're the second Cooper in a row on the show, but probably not related. You probably don't know who Bo Cooper is. You might know who he is, but you're probably not related to Bo Cooper, as far as we know.
No, I'm not. Yeah, our family's really small. The funny thing, when we were rodeoing, we the Coopers, Jake and Jim and Tuff and Cliff and all of them, I guess they were junior rodeoing in the same association, and that was the only kind of run in ever, But yeah, we're on the other end of the pen, and my family's really. I remember that my brother is like Jake and Jim's age. So they were like junior rodeoing at the same time. But yeah, we're different family. You know, it turns out Cooper's kind of a common last name. You know,
so you know,
not much. When you say last name Cooper and rodeo, there's like one family that anybody ever takes up.
Yeah. Well, before we get into you know, obviously you're here because we're gonna talk about your music career and some exciting things on the horizon with that. But to start off, let's talk about the rodeo career. You know, now a musician, but you're a guy that kind of grew up in rodeo, second generation, come from a family a saddle bronc riders. You went rogue and went to a bareback rigging. But why don't you kind of tell the listeners a little bit about your rodeo career before the music took over?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I grew up getting on saddle bronc. I think I got on my first when I was like 13, and could get by them fine. It could scratch out a couple, you know. And then by the time I got to high school, I just wanted to kind of make a play at the all around, and I didn't rope, you know. I mean, outside of the dummy, like I didn't enter any of the roping, and so I don't know, bareback riding. I liked that it was kind of all gas, no brakes. And at some point it kind of took over, and my bronc riding, you know, kind of suffered. And when I got to college, I think I was like supposed to, when I was on the rodeo team at South Plains, I was supposed to like be riding broncs and bareback, but I don't think I entered the saddle bronc riding like once when I got to college. So
When we got South Plains,
get money.
when were you there? What years?
I was at South Plains. I was at South Plains 2008, and it was just so close to home. You know, I went to A&M right after that. I went to South Plains, and I was a music major and rodeoed. And you know, Lubbock is 40 minutes, you know, 35, 40 minutes away. And it just felt like I was, you know, kind of doing some of the same things that I was doing in high school when I was at South Plains. So I had to create a little bit more distance. So I was only there for, yeah.
Do you recognize this?
Oh, you bet. Yeah.
I went there in 08. So I was in the west, the southwest region, same time. It's funny, we probably crossed paths somewhere along the same time.
Oh, we probably were at the same. There was always, I'm not going to name any names, but there was always a big party at Eastern that everybody went. Yeah.
Shit. I broke my collarbone there that one time. But I still partied that night. I didn't figure it out it was broken until the next day.
In 2008.
I think so. Yeah, because it was 2008. Yeah, the fall of 08. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I was there. There's that. I can tell you. I have, for whatever reason, I've probably forgot more rodeos than I remember now. But I remember that one, and I remember that party afterwards, and I remember whose house it was at, and I remember it getting broke up by the cops, and I remember running from the cops. And
I don't.
Do you remember any of that?
I don't recall.
There's only
sounds about right.
We'll have this after the podcast, so we don't incriminate anybody.
Well, it's long enough ago. It's probably fine, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Man, I forget. Who was the bareback rider that I went to school with? Casey. The hell's his name now? He's from New Mexico. But there's a bunch of our friends that went to school at South Plains at the same time. But there was like, man, those college rodeo days were so much fun. I enjoyed the hell out of that. I went to Vegas after that.
The Southwest region was, it was a little bit more fun and a little wilder than the Southern region for sure. You know, when I got down there, you know, at South Plains, we were part of the athletic program, so we were in that, like the athlete dorms, and you know, it was we had access to everything, you know, locker room, everything. And then when I got down to A&M, it was a club sport, and our rodeo coach there, Dr. Al, you know, he was a volunteer. Like, it was one of the biggest universities in Texas, and certainly one of the richest, and the rodeo team didn't get, I mean, anything, you know. Dr. Al really had to fight, you know, tooth and nail to get anything, and did a great job. but it's just weird, when you go from these schools that are like kind of rodeo schools, and then you go to a university, it's like, yeah, nobody cares. You're not bringing in what the football team's bringing in.
Yeah, especially not A&M. Shit. The
Yeah.
oh man, I wonder who did Morgan Grant go to A&M the same time you were there? Would have been calf roping and bulldogging at the time.
Oh
He was
yeah.
there. Yeah, he was. He was
He
A&M.
should have been there, right? Yeah.
Yep.
No shit. Yeah.
Yep.
So he married a girl from, well, he's from Ontario, but he married a girl from
Right.
from out our way, Jillian. Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't thought about Morgan in a long time. There's some Canucks at South Plains too.
I forget who was there right now though. I forget who the hell it was. I think maybe Ben Ramey was there at that time. Eric DeBlanco was a lot of fun. He was at Tarleton though. Doobsy. Yeah. Doobsy, yeah.
Doobsy.
No shit.
Yeah. Yeah. So Jim Hunter was there, and he wrote Cavs really well. He was actually a creative arts major too. He was a video production major. He was one of my best friends there. And then Stewie Kinley was the bull rider there
from Manitoba.
Yeah, from Manitoba.
Now he's in. I think now he's coaching at Lubbock because he got hooked up with the rodeo coach in Hobbs for a while. Philip Berry was the horse trainer, like big time, like heavy in the horse training business. And then Stewart coached there, but I think now Stewart's coaching at Lubbock. If I'm not mistaken, maybe.
Man, I haven't even thought so long.
That's hilarious.
There was a couple other guys at that point.
You know who else was there is Jessica Waylard, who's like big time with Cinch now. She was there at the same time. And then her brother is Austin Waylard, who also sings.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was at Odessa, but I think she was at South Plains. Yeah.
I don't know if she was at South Plains she wasn't at South Plains when I was there.
Oh, okay. Man, that's hilarious.
But I think me and Austin are the same age.
Okay. So, well, you're probably 34 then. I'm 33.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
so
fun.
That year at Odessa, Aaron Ladd was there, and then we were college roommates in at A&M. He moved after that 08 year too.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Well, the blast from the past here.
I don't remember the running from the cops, but it very well could have happened because but it's kind of funny that I remember that clearly that I didn't go to the hospital till the next day. I was like, this still hurts really bad. And it's the next day. Maybe I should get it checked out. And it was broken again.
I'm pretty sure that party was at Jared Green's house.
Oh, should I forget that? I forget who that is now too. Wasn't he a bareback rider too?
He rode good too.
Yeah, like didn't he make the finals? Like the NFR? Or am I remembering wrong?
Oh, Garrett Smith did.
Oh, okay. Still. That guy was
in the Southwest region too. He went to Ranger or Charlton, one of the two. Or no, that's not even right. He went to WT. He went to Snyder. He went to WTC.
Remember a couple guys at Snyder that rode really well in the bull riding too. There was a Cody from Colorado. What the hell his last name was? That guy rode real solid.
Yeah.
Samora, right?
Oh gosh,
college finals.
And they had some of those Australians there too at the WTC.
Yeah, like maybe like a Brad Pierce or
he rode Bronx good.
Yeah, there's a few of them.
Yeah.
Anyways, I never made the finals. I rode a couple bulls, but I had a lot of fun. Met a lot of great people.
Yeah. I went because I was no, I didn't go that year. I went when I was at A&M because I was the director of the Southern region.
To the college finals, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, you just cut out. I didn't hear that part.
Oh yeah. I sneaked in the next year because I was a couple years. I was the Southern region student director. Okay. So they take the director along, and I rode like crap. And there's a point where I was riding good and could have made the most of my finals there, but I rode horrible. But made the circuit finals and stuff, and yada yada. I don't know. It's ages ago now, which is crazy. I've been here 11 years. I've been in Nashville for coming on 11 years. I moved August 25th of 2012.
No shit. So right after school.
Yeah.
So what? So I guess going back to that, you're riding bareback horses. I'm sure you probably rode in the PRCA and stuff down there. What made you decide to take one path over the other?
It was never a there was never at one point a like a really conscious decision of it, to be completely honest. It was a you know, music was kind of taken off a little bit more. And you know how it goes when you're fighting your head. I was fighting my head bad that senior year of college, and was kind of developed some bad habits in my bareback riding, and never really took the time and the practice pen to straighten them out, and was just fighting my head and didn't really. When you're fighting your head, the best thing you can do is just go. Just get on as much as you can, and it's like a golf swing. You figure it out and keep going. But it takes a lot of reps, and I was fighting my head pretty bad, and then graduated school, and music was kind of taking over anyway. And I remember I kind of had this decision to make of like where I wanted to live, which is such a privileged decision. It wasn't like where do I have to live. It was like where do I want to go and what do I want to do? Like truly, what I want to do. And at that point, my brother was living in Austin. I'd had a lot of friends in the Texas music scene, but I'd never really felt. I never really felt like I was a part of that, like I'd always kind of felt like an outsider. And because my brother was living in Austin, I was like, I kind of know what Austin feels like. I kind of know what that's about. And at the time, like I've never been like a big commercial country music fan, like a radio country fan. But I kept hearing these like amazing records that were all coming out of East Nashville where I live. And there was a handful of them at the time, and they were all like kind of part of this subculture that was happening in Nashville. And so I went to go visit, me and my mother, and this sweet woman, took me up there when I was, 21, 22 years old, whatever it was. And I didn't know anybody, and I didn't know where you needed to go. And so we went downtown, and it was like it wasn't a fun experience. It was, going down Broadway is just all touristy. And I was like, man, I don't know about this. And of course, my sweet mother like tried everything she could to make sure that the trip was awesome, And I remember getting back to Texas and being like, this ain't it. This ain't for me. And then within like a couple of weeks, though, I started realizing that I did know a couple people that lived here, and that there was this big scene that I just didn't go to the right places. And so I kind of bit the bullet, and just kind of went for it. And I said, I'm going to give it a year. If I don't like it after a year, hell, I'll come back home. I'll move somewhere else, but I'm not tied to anything. And I have support, my friends and family. Like, I'll give it a year. And then another year went by, another year went by. And meanwhile, I'd never planned on like, quitting rodeoing. Like I was fighting my head, but, I brought everything. I brought my saddle with me. I brought my rigging bag. I was apprenticing out to a farrier when I was living in Lubbock after graduation. I brought like my farrier box. I brought everything. And I figured that I would kind of get my mind back right. And then I would, kind of enter some punk and rollins or whatever, that there'd be some rodeos up here. And there wasn't. And then music really took over. I just bailed in, I cannonballed into this thing. And which I think is the best way to do it. For better or worse, you just do it. And things work out how they're supposed to. It was also kind of preached in our family, like if you're going to do one thing, do it whole ass. Don't do two things half ass. And there's a lot of things that I don't like about living in Nashville, but there's a lot of stuff that I love, and I like that there's a lot of resources here. I met my wife here, so it ended up being good. And it's different for sure, but there's a reason why I've been here 11 years and I didn't move after that first one.
Well, I found it quite interesting because I know, I'm a big music fan. I listen to a lot of music, and I know that kind of that Texas country music scene is a lot bigger than probably a lot of people realize. And I listen to a lot of guys from that Texas music scene, and it was funny for me to hear a guy from Lubbock say that he wanted to get out of that, when I feel that probably there's a lot of people that stay involved in that. So when you were talking about some of the records you'd listened to and the people that were around that area, obviously you must have had some of that as an inspiration, but who did you listen to when you were there, and what part about that scene made you want to leave? Because I in my head, I'm thinking, well, a guy from Lubbock surely would stay in the area and just roll with what's happening in that scene.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point. What I will say is now I feel like the umbrella for Texas music is much larger than it was then. It was more of a kind of a sound, back then, when I was kind of growing up and cutting teeth. The guys that were really big outside of like Wade Bowen and Randy Rogers, it was like Casey Donahue and Roger Krager, and kind of this like dance hall sounding country, and that's great. And there's man, like obviously like those guys have kicked ass for so long. And then kind of that next wave was like William Clark Green and some dear friends of mine. But at that time, a lot of it probably just came down to I didn't truly know who I was musically, but growing up in Lubbock, like my brother showed me, Texas country. We're 5 years apart. He's 5 years older. He started going to some of those concerts in high school. So when I was in middle school, I remember like listening to like the Pat Green Dance Hall Dreamer record, and like some of those first like Texas music records for me were that. It was like Pat Green and Corey Morrow. And, I probably heard that before I heard like Robert O'Keefe, and Lubbock being such a hotbed, the Maines brothers are from Lubbock, obviously, and Terry Allen and Joe Ely, the Flatlanders. Like it's got such a kind of a prowess over musical history in West Texas for sure. But I was listening to like at that point, I'd find out who like Whiskey Town was and Ryan Adams, and I'd also like the Strokes were really big, so I was listening to the Strokes, and then I found like these surf rock records. And I was Thrift Store Cowboys was this huge band in Lubbock around Lubbock at the time, but they're like the first kind of national act that was from Lubbock that wasn't Texas country, that was like this kind of indie country, alt country thing that would have been more in line with like Wilco or Whiskey Town or Calexico or any of these bands that kind of to me sounded like a Southwestern like soundscape. And I felt like I always gravitated more towards that. And it wasn't this huge just kind of denial of Texas country. It was that I looked at, even though I was like listening to Pat Green records, or the Wade and Randy records or whatever it was, even though in like Cross Canadian Ragweed, I like loved those records as a kid growing up, but I never felt like that was me. Like I enjoyed them, but when I started writing songs, I never felt like that I was like that in that same kind of subgenre. Does that makes sense? Like
You didn't have a best friend named Junior that lived 2 trailers down?
No, I didn't.
Well, I think that's pretty cool because I could see a lot of guys, you get into songwriting, you pick up a guitar, a lot of people would just become a product of the environment you're in, probably, right? And you're gonna adapt, or some people would probably go the route of writing music and singing music to fit that scene, to fit in, and you elected obviously to go to where you felt truest. Is that kind of a good way to sum it up a bit?
Yeah, but I don't know if that would ever, like, I don't think it was that conscious, and I've always kind of, I don't think I've ever taken an easy route a day in my life. And not saying that if I would have like stayed in Texas and immersed myself in the Texas country state, I don't think that would have been an easy route at all. But I kept kind of turning stones over. I've always kind of been. It's almost felt like musically, I've always kind of been a searcher or whatever, for different stories, and I've always just kind of wanted to see, kind of, what's past the horizon. And it's funny because like all those guys are my friends, like all the Texas country crowd, like man, those guys, we play in Texas all the time. Like I've always my biggest like songwriting credits are in Texas. Like I've always straddled that line. I'm so proud to be from Texas and so proud to be, from Lubbock specifically. Like some of my music, my biggest music influences, period, are, like the Flatlanders and Joe Ely, like music from Lubbock, Texas. But I wanted to see, kind of for better or worse, how big I could try to make this thing, like, and Nashville, at this moment kind of has more resources than New York, LA, Austin, all of it, for anything that's kind of country centric, it's all here. And you don't have to be writing, radio country or commercial country radio. There's there's a million different ways to skin a cat in this town. I think the best thing you can do is realize kind of what the resources are, what makes sense for you. Identify what your goals are, and then figure out what resources can help you get to those goals.
Sorry, it looked like you froze on our screen. I was holding out for a second there. So what are some of those goals for you, and what are you making? What are you spending most of your time on? I looked at your tour dates, and you got a bunch of stuff lined up for the fall and whatnot. But like, what are you working on day to day? What does a regular day look like? How'd you find your niche out there?
So, for me, there's a lot of like trying to, develop the elevator pitch of how you see yourself as an artist. Cause sometimes that's not like what other people see as. And if there's a disconnect, you either have to be okay with it or you have to figure out how to make that meet. For me, I'm a lyric driven songwriter with more emphasis on the lyric, and sometimes, for worse, less emphasis on the melody. Like I love guys like, Guy Clark. Of course, I love Jason Isbell's songs and American Aquarium, William Clark Green. The guys that are really great at crafting stories and songs, and always going back to Guy Clark. For me, it starts with the story of the song, right? But as far as what I'm working on, like putting out a new record September 29th. It's been kind of a long labor of love. I started writing songs for it during COVID, and it was supposed to be an acoustic album, and then those songs kind of like, I realized it could be bigger than an acoustic album. I wanted to just make a record at my house and pump it out. And it felt like that a lot of these acoustic albums, were coming out. And then over time, like what I thought that album was going to be completely changed into something different. Honestly, some of those first songs that I thought that I would put on this, acoustic album didn't even make it, and we're about to put out a, 13 song long album in the fall. And it's completely different from, how it started. But as far as the goals go, the question on, it's kind of a career question, but it gets thrown around a lot here is, if you had the choice, whether you would play like the Ryman, for 3 nights in a row, or play, Bridgestone Arena for one night, what would you choose? And for me, it's always been the Ryman. It's always been like, if I could play the Ryman, sell it out 3 nights in a row, even though Bridgestone sits however many freaking people, that to me is more indicative of like how I want my career to be. The Ryman is, first of all, it's the best sounding place in the country. It's got so much history, but it's not huge, like it's a good sized room, but it's not Bridgestone. But if you can sell that out 3 nights in a row, that tells you everything that you need to know about the type of fan base that you've kind of fostered. I want to grow the fan base of people that are going to buy every piece of vinyl that you put out, and the same people that are going to go to the shows 5 years from now, versus the shows that you're playing now, and the people that are going to follow that career and it not be just a flash and pan. But also, like, I'd be lying, if I said I didn't want, as a songwriter, a number one song. Like, I want that. I want a songwriting credit on a number one song in country radio, but I want it to be something that I'm really proud of. Every few years you get these, anomalies of these huge, beautiful, like just incredible songs that get cut by, major label country artists. And everybody's like, where the hell did that song come from? Whether it be a Lori McKenna cut or whatever. And it's like, well, these songs have been here the whole time, It's like every now and then, every few years, somebody cuts like a hard hitting songwriter song and it goes number one. And, so if I just figure if I'm here, why not dream as big as you can? Like, your dreams shouldn't die when you get older. They should get bigger, because hopefully you figure out the resources that you need to get, to achieve them. But yeah, I want it all, man. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. I want to be able to support a family with music. I want to play the Ryman. I want to play the Grand Ole Opry, and I want a #1 song in country radio that I wrote. Like, if I hit one of those, man, I'm doing.
Well, I imagine it's not a matter of if, but when for you, especially having listened to your music. Let's talk about, people see the, people up on stage playing tunes. You've alluded to the fact a bunch here about songwriting. Talk about the process of being a songwriter at that level in a Nashville scene, because being an entertainer and being a songwriter are kind of two different worlds.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things that they first ask you when you, come in for meetings in Nashville when you first moved here, or when you first moved here is, are you an artist or a songwriter? And hell, where I'm from is like, it's one and the same. An artist is somebody who creates art. And what that question really means is, do you want to go more like the artist route where you're on the road playing songs, and putting out records, or do you want to be a career songwriter where you're writing 4 or 5 days a week, and if not more, and you're pitching songs to get cut? Again, I want to have my cake and I want to eat it too. So I've always dodged that answer. It's equal parts. It's always started with the song for me, and that process is usually, usually it's an idea or it's something that I've heard somebody say, or it's and it's an idea that got sparked out of something that I read, but for me, it always starts with a story, or a line. Rarely for me does it start with a melody. For a lot of people, it starts with a melody. And I think with a lot of the big, pop and pop country writers, it probably starts with a melody more. And those people that can do that, man, it is a talent, like, to be able to hear these big melodies. That's what your ear goes to when you listen to the radio. The reason why these songs are so big is rarely because of the lyric, it's because of the melody. But also it's like you play to your strengths. I try to strengthen that. I try to, bring good melodies to the table. But for me, it's always started with what I want to say. Because, to me, whether it's right or wrong, if you don't have anything to say, you don't have a song. And I have a lot of songs that don't say shit. You know what I mean? But I do believe that, though, and I wish I could write about any subject, and I just can't. If I don't believe in the story, if I don't believe in the idea, it's really hard for me to get behind.
You've obviously used your rodeo life and growing up a cowboy as part of that inspiration. When you look at obviously the titles, I just listened to Everybody Wants to Be a Cowboy, and I rode wild horses. I'm assuming that you're obviously drawing a lot of inspiration from the life you lived prior to the music career.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar though from the music career. It's the same type of living. It's long and late nights, and it's at this level, it's not a real guarantee of good pay all the time, and it's a hard lifestyle, and it's but it takes the same type of grit and the same kind of, I guess, fortitude to be good at either one of them. But it took me a long time to write a rodeo song. I think I rode the Wild Horses. I think that was my first rodeo song that I wrote. I was listening to, when I was making that record, and before, I was listening to a lot of like Tom Waits and stuff. Again, I've always kind of listened to stuff that was out a little in left field, kind of outside the bigger spectrum, like stuff that was always on the fringe. And for some reason, man, it might have been that I was so close to both rodeo and music that I didn't know how to merge those worlds in a way that I could put my writing voice behind it. Of course, like, I've listened to damn near every Chris Ledoux rodeo song that there was. Like, we grew up on Gold Buckle Dreams. Like, everybody listened to that record.
Yeah.
But I knew that I couldn't write like do type of song, because that wouldn't, it didn't feel authentic. And it took a little while for me to figure out what that meant for me, like how I could write a rodeo song, but it be from my perspective, and it feel authentic, and something that and it be something that I thought was really cool too. For it to be something that I would personally want to listen to. But yeah, man, I wrote a lot. I mean, I wrote a ton of songs for a lot of years before I ever wrote a rodeo song. And then I felt like I kind of finally, or a cowboy song. And I felt like I finally kind of unlocked it and figured out how to do that, for me, you know?
And obviously in Nashville, you're surrounded by a lot of songwriters and a lot of people that are doing what you're doing. Is collaborating on the songwriting, is that a big part of your process as well, or do you write with a lot of different people, or kind of explain that process?
Yeah, I do. So when I first moved to Nashville, I didn't like, co-writing was so foreign to me. And then I dove in it. I started co-writing, and you know, a, a lot of people are like ardently against co-writing, and I understand the reasons why. Um, but for me, it was this whole, like, it was a boot camp. Some of those years in early years in Nashville, it was like, holy shit, these guys, you know, regardless of how you feel about what's on the radio at any point, they're some of the best writers in the world that are here. Like, I mean, just guys that I was like, shit, I'm not a songwriter. These guys are songwriters. Oh my God, what am I doing? Like, these guys are the real deal. And so it's like, you can either run away from that, or you can let it make you better. And I tried to make it, I tried to let it make me better, learn, like, listening more and talking less, and figuring out the different tools that those guys had on their tool belt that you could kind of borrow and put on yours, or figure out, how people are creating these lines, and how they're saying, something so big with so few words. And so I used that as an opportunity to get better. And I still co-write a good bit. I do like having a perspective that's different from my own. For me, I think the songs that I like the most, are usually the songs that I wrote, or that I write by myself. That's not always the case, but the ones that I write by myself, I think that I'm the most proud of them, because they're uniquely mine, and they come from a perspective that nobody else has. But there's some of my favorite songs that I've written too. I couldn't have written them without the other person in the room. If I would have written it by myself, it would have been a completely different song. Um, so my goal in the room, whether I'm writing by myself or writing with someone else, is always, regardless of the genre, regardless of the style, it's always what can be the best song in the room. And I've ended up with like a lot of shit, a lot of like not good songs. But you have to write so many bad ones to get ones you're proud of. And to me, there's never a wasted song. Never. I've written some horrible songs, but I'm proud that I've written them, because it got me to the next song. Does that make sense?
100%. Sounds kind of like
Yeah.
rodeo. And sometimes you just, yeah, it works and doesn't work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back on the artist side, is it better on the like live show side for you right now, as far as like making a living at it, or is it the writing side? Like, is it day to day going and writing, or is it, I've heard things about Spotify isn't worth a shit for getting paid, and iTunes, people don't hardly buy any songs from iTunes anymore. Like, I know I do for working events and whatnot, but everybody's on the subscription side of things. Like, I was just kind of curious that way.
Yeah. So to make any money on the music side, it's about merchandise. Like, it's going, playing shows and selling T-shirts and caps. Like, that's it. Um, the music side doesn't pay. It just doesn't. You know, but if we can go sell a couple $1,000s worth of merch, and then I don't know, I still think, even though everything has changed so much, you're still building fans out there. Like, if I see some cool merch from a cool band, like I don't really wear band merch much anymore. But man, if I know what it's like, man, I'll buy vinyl, I'll buy t-shirts, I'll buy caps, whatever. Um, but yeah, the music, the tangible music doesn't pay like the CDs. It's nobody buys them, you know, and Spotify, et cetera, doesn't pay. Um, you know, the playlists and the big numbers, it's great for optics. It's even better if you can put people in a room, you know. But where you see the money from it is at the merch table. But you know, even though everything's kind of convoluted with the way songwriters get paid nowadays, it really, when you kind of brush all that away, at the basis of it, like, you know, you make money at the merch table because you're meeting the person buying it. You know, it all starts with the person. Like, um, you know, I love meeting people. Like, um, and it's not like I'm a huge artist or anything, but at at any show, big or small, I always go to the merch table. Always, I want to make myself accessible. Like if somebody's going to take time out of their day to buy something that I've made, then I'm damn sure going to take time out of my day to like go meet them and shake their hand. And you know, like I'm around musicians every single day of the week. Like when I meet people out there, I want to know about them. You know, like I want to figure out like why is a plumber from Iowa? Why does he like my music? You know what I mean? Like, and what is his like? No, that's the interesting stuff though. To me, I don't know. I just um it all kind of starts with those relationships and um yeah, it's but it so that answers the, you know, where does the money come from? It starts it it's with merch, but you know, it starts with the person. But on to answer the other question about, you know, songwriting versus playing, like um I feel like I'm kind of at my best when I'm spread thin. I like to always be writing and, you know, being, you know, I like to be playing as much as I can. We have dates, you know, some good dates coming up on the calendar, but, um, you know, I always want more. I always want more dates, more of it all. Because there's so many, kind of unanswered questions in, you know, in a music career. You know, there's so many what ifs. I think personally, I feel like I'm doing my part more if I'm working as hard as I can with what I feel like you know, I can bring to the table. So if it's songwriting and playing, like I want to be doing those as much as I can. And you know, that I wish the calendar was 4 times, 5 times, you know, longer than it was right now, but it's not. And it will be at some point. And then when it's to that point, I'll be bitching about, you know, not being home. But yeah, you know, I like to feel like I'm working. And sometimes even when I'm working that either the admin side or whatever it is, like uh if it doesn't if it's not directly, if it's not like writing songs or playing music, even though it is like a huge part of the career, um, sometimes it feels like I'm not doing anything, you know, even when it's not true. It's like, you know, if you're answering emails for 3 hours and then, you know, calling advancing shows and figuring out an itinerary and figuring out budget and all this bullshit that nobody wants to do, for some reason in our lizard brains we don't think about like that being work. And that's the biggest work of it. The playing the music's not the work. That's the easy part. You know, that's the part that like we get to do. That's the part that like they don't pay you for that shit. They pay you for driving hours in a van and, you know, trying to figure out how to pay a band and like how to trying to figure out like where to book a hotel room that's not going to get you stabbed. Like that's what the music part, that's the easy part. That's the fun part, you know?
It's like being a carny,
Yeah.
or no,
It's
it's just
exactly,
like rodeoing. Yeah,
It's like doing what we're doing right
yeah.
now,
yeah,
rodeoing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about the songwriting and the music and everything, but what if you write a #1 song for like George Strait? Are you making money then? Is there money in that
Yeah.
side of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the crazy thing is it's not as much as it used to be. You know, a song that would have paid you a few million, 20 years ago pays you a few $100,000 now. That's how much streaming has really, I mean, it's really, kind of crippled it's crippled songwriters for sure. You could make a huge living off of one number one song. And now it's not like that, but it's changed the game. Changed it, and I don't know. I know it sounds like a fortune cookie, but change can't be good or bad. It's just change. How you adapt to it, I think, is the most telling, because I can't do shit about it. And at the end of the day, I don't have a number one song, so it doesn't matter. I'm not making $1 million, and I'm not making a few $100,000, so I don't have those problems. But yeah, it takes more than it used to, for sure. But I don't know. Like, I'll always write songs, and I think at a certain, well, I know at a certain level on the artist side that, when you hit and you're just going and going and going, and like, they're making some big money off those live shows, big money. But yeah, I guess it could be a good excuse for me being poor, but my goal was never to like be a rich and famous songwriter. And maybe it should have been, but my goal, when I moved to Nashville and like became old enough to like, have a fully formed frontal lobe where I could understand, that goals like, like where I could, like, what a goal meant as a songwriter. To me, and I know it sounds cheesy, I know, but to me, it wasn't to write a number one song. It is to write a number one song that I'm so proud of. Like, I want to be the best songwriter that I can be. And then the rest is byproduct. The rest is of consequence of hopefully what that skill set is. If it takes me, until I'm 50 or 60 to write that type of song, that caliber song, because I don't have the skill set yet, then so be it. But when I look at, again, I go back and reference Guy Clark, to me, some of my favorite Guy Clark songs were songs that were written later in his career, because you learn those skills and you hone them, and you have the life experience to be able to write that caliber. It's like you hear all the time, you look up like old, like Paul McCartney interviews and stuff, and all these famous songwriter interviews, and you always hear like, oh, that song took 15 minutes to write. It fell into my lap. It's like, yeah, maybe, but you're kind of just transcribing the life experience that you've had for all those years, before. And I do think that there is something to kind of pulling something out of the ether and being like, kind of ready when that inspiration strikes. And there is something that's pretty amazing when that happens, when you just like write it down and it's just like this complete thought and it gets out on the paper. But it takes a lot of living to get to that point too.
That reminds me of one of my favorite shows from a while back, Californication. Do you remember the David Duchovny show where he's the writer out in LA? And one of my favorite quotes, because I wrote for a while, and that's how we got connected, actually. So short story, but Susan Canode, she does the PR and does a lot of writing and a lot of PR at a lot of events. College National Finals is where Ross met her. I met her at the NFR in Vegas, and I just saw her the other day in Cheyenne. We were down at Cheyenne for the first time and got connected. And then she's like, oh, you got to hear this song. So she shows me Ross's song. She's like, you need to have him on the show. I was like, okay, well, yeah, get us hooked up. Let's do it. So here we are. like a week to the day, like a week ago, we got talking and he's like, yeah, let's get it done Monday. But that one quote from Californication was Duchovny, like I forget what his name was in the show, but he's like, nah, you don't want to be a writer, kid. It's like having homework every day for the rest of your life. And that kind of makes me think of what you're just saying, where you're always writing. Like if you're a writer, you're always writing. You're never not writing. And it's like, no, fuck, I got to write this and I got to be thinking about it. And like, there's no end to it. It's just constant turning in the mind.
Yeah, the guitar kind of it. There'll be days it'll go by with me not touching a guitar. Sometimes like a week or two. Well, not two, but there'll be chunks of time that go by, several days that I don't touch a guitar. But and I think these days I try to turn off more. I try to, not write, but it's pretty futile. Like I'm always writing something, even when I don't think I am, because I'm writing on like the notes on my phone, ideas, to save for later. And it's always going. And I'm thankful for that. I like seriously, it's I've joked with my wife and I've joked with friends before of like, I don't know if it's the thing that's like keeping me alive or killing me, but it's the thing that's that it's the constant that I've been obsessive about, you know.
Who's the coolest artist you've ever got to work with or write with at this point in your career?
Or do a show with?
Oh God.
And that's probably subjective on what's cool, but I mean, I guess who's been the person to you that's been like, man, I can't believe I got to write or perform with someone like that.
There's been a few of them. I forget who this original quote started with. I think that it was Ray Wiley Hubbard, but the interviewer asked him what he was listening to, and he said, "Well, listen to my friends." And I thought that was such a first of all, it's so true, but such a nice sentiment. And that's true. I usually am listening to my friends more than anything else. But so here lately, Ben Danaher, William Clark Green, Colin Nash, Tyler Halverson. But as far as like shows and whatnot, there's been a couple of kind of like really cool moments. Last year, I think it was last year, year before last, we did some shows with Clint Black, and it was just one of those moments. I was like, dude, I grew up listening to Clint Black. Like, this is crazy. But being able to have that moment, because we were kind of in like go mode too. We were playing. And I remember having to take kind of a beat and being like, hey, like, enjoy this, because you never thought that, you always wish you could be here. You always wish that it could, it could always be better in our mind. And that's so unfair, because that makes you not celebrate the cool moments when they come. So I've tried to get better about doing that. And the Clint Black shows were awesome. We did a few of them, or three or four of them. Anyway, but the first one we did, we were in Ardmore, Oklahoma, and it was packed. It's like an kind of old school pavilion, and like on the front row, like Randy Travis was sitting there. I was like, what is life right now? Like, this is cool.
That's damn cool.
Yeah. And then last last fall, completely opposite. I got to go to Scandinavia with a good buddy of mine, an artist named Sam Outlaw. He's from California originally. Really cool. Really, really cool, like laid back LA country, like really hip. Just phenomenal music. But he has a really big following in Sweden and Norway and the Netherlands. And so he invited me to go there, and we played. Like, I remember we played Stockholm, and we played this room that like Charlie Parker had played in the early 1900s, and like then the Red Hot Chili Peppers had played, like Tupac had played, like and it was packed. And over there, they show up early for openers. Like, it's this big reverent thing. They show up early. If the show starts at 6 and there's 2 openers, damn it, they're going to be there at 6. Here it's like we all do it. It's like, okay, so and so's direct support. The door's at 9. That means music's probably at 10. The headliner goes on 11. We'll be fine if we get there by 10:45. Like, that's so like, and that's not. It's not always fair for the opener, but we got over there, and it was 12 days or 12 shows in 16 days. And damn near every single one of them was like phenomenal. And there was a couple of these rooms. There was like this old theater that we played in Sweden, that I guess was probably built for like the opera. It was real shallow, like it was probably only 30 yards to the back of the room, but it was real tall. So sound just, hits it and then goes straight up. And it was like, over 100 years old and like just beautiful. And there was a couple of those moments where um it was I was more kind of struck by the moment, you know what I mean? Like, and being so thankful that I got to be on that tour with somebody who I respected so much. As far as being starstruck, um, I haven't had a lot of those moments. I've always wanted to see them as like an equal. Like I'd like psych myself out, be like, because like I remember when I first moved to town, I was like valuing cars and shit. I was doing stuff that, that just sucked. I had like you had these moments where like you're, a college graduate from a pretty decent university with a piece of paper hanging on your wall, and then like you're just doing anything you can to just do it. And I remember like meeting like Vince Gill, and like some of these guys, and it not being so much like, oh my god, it's Vince Gill. It being more like, okay, how do I play with these guys? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And I don't know. It's probably completely delusional, but that's I think I've been to answer the question without answering the question at all. I think I've kind of been more stricken by the moments, and like one of my good friends, you know, uh, William Clark Green, Texas singer, you know, I've referenced him a lot in my career because all my biggest songwriting cuts have been with him, and um, we've just always been buds. So when I go back to Texas and see how these songs work, it's like, oh my god, like I can't believe, like this is huge. Like this, I think the guy's a star, but he's also one of my best buddies. So I don't seem like that. I don't know. It's just I know I'm just kind of rambling, but
Oh, it
yeah,
makes sense, right?
the,
It's you want to be at the same level as those guys, and
yeah,
in fact, in so many ways, you really are. You write songs, you perform. Um,
Park their cars.
yeah,
but
not in a
I
long
think
time, but
I love the Clint Black stuff. Clint
That's
Black.
a
I
beat.
mean, growing up, Clint Black. I remember going to one of his shows. I'm pretty sure it was Clint Black. That guy played drums, piano,
yes,
harp, like he played every instrument on the stage that night at some point.
dude. Okay, so he asked me when we got there, um, he asked me if I had a backdrop. And I was like, no. I said, we have a cloth backdrop, but it's too small for the stage. And like it was, it's a huge stage and they have a digital backdrop. And he's like, no, that won't do. He's like, if you don't look good, I don't look good. And he is so in tune with everything that he does that he, like he gets on the mic and he's talking to his video guy. And he's like, so and so, hey, pull up that backdrop, that digital backdrop that we had, um, like last May when we did that one show. He's just so like perfectly into. He remembers everything. He's so like on it, and he was like, "We used this one backdrop. Um, it had to have been last May. We used it for a couple of weeks. It looks like a window pane with the moon behind it, and it's nighttime. It's like pull up that one. That could be their backdrop." And like the guy pulls it up, and it's like spot on for what he said. He's so on top of everything. And I think probably the best way to describe a guy like that is, you see a lot of you know, the acts that are referred to as like heritage acts, like the older 90s, 80s, 90s country guys that are touring again. Some of them are doing it because they have to. And then some of them are doing it because it's a victory lap. You know what I mean? they have great careers. They were super smart with their money. They're so talented. Like, dude, Clint Black's one of those guys. He could put out a new record tomorrow and it'd be badass. Like,
Yeah.
he's so like hospitable, kind, very in tune with every facet of his of his show. It was one of the most impressive. It was one of the most impressive operations, not from a standpoint of everything's running so smooth, but from a standpoint of this dude has his hand in every single part of it. And that's why it's running so smooth, is because he knows exactly what's going on with the lights when he's singing the second verse of whatever song. You know what I mean? Like, he just that shit to me is cool. You know, you want to be like the master of your creative destiny, man. Like, that dude's doing it. Like, it was just cool. And it's cool that like, you know, you can say, and I hate to use anything that would say, you know, that his heyday was back when we were growing up, because like every show was packed. We played amphitheaters with the dude, and it was packed, you know. But when you think of like when Clint Black, you know, really popped off, and there's a reason why, you know, I think in any business, why certain people are successful, and it that dude is a great example. Like, he's a businessman, but he's so creative, and it was a tight ship, and it was, man, it was really cool.
How surprised were you to see him on The Masked Singer?
I don't have the Masked Singer. I know what that show is, but I don't know what that show is at all.
Oh, really? He was on The Masked
I
Singer. He was
know.
one of the people in the mascot costumes. I thought it was hilarious. It was awesome.
That seems like something. So who are the guessers on that show?
Oh, like Ken Jeong, the guy from
The Hangover.
The Hangover, yeah. He, and then like one of the, like, probably a Kardashian, and then like an old Backstreet Boys girlfriend, like. But Leanne Rimes won it one time too. It was kind of an interesting
Really?
show. They also have like Larry the Cable Guy and Rob Gronkowski singing too, so sometimes it gets a little bad on the singing side. Then they have the real artists that like do pretty awesome. Wayne Brady won it one year too, and he was like pretty awesome. Pardon?
Wayne Brady can sing his ass off, though.
Yeah, he was awesome. Yeah, it was impressive.
Yeah, but so here's the thing: you have Clint Black on The Masked Singer, and you know, you host that show in, you know, Odessa, Texas. They're gonna guess right away. You know?
yeah.
Like,
If it was hosted at Dos Amigos, everybody would know instantly.
You know, it's funny you talk about guys taking a victory lap. A few years ago, I went to a concert, and it was David Lee Murphy, and of course,
Keepy Creek Stampede.
Yeah, and it's like he shows up, he's in like all denim, and I'm like, man, this guy's got to be like just out here trying to get his last few bucks. I knew Dust on the Bottle, I knew Party Crowd, and then he gets on the mic and he says, "I'm going to play a set of songs that I've written, you know, that have been successful." And I'm thinking, okay, this should be interesting. That guy played about 15 songs that were probably all #1 hits that he's probably just rolling in the cash from. And I couldn't believe, I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's cool when that happens, man. Oh man. It's been years ago, but so the band Exile was having like their 50th anniversary show, and I had to open for them acoustic. And first of Exile, the band is no joke. I mean, oh gosh, you know, the only song that I knew before, well, one of the only songs that I knew before that show was like the song from like Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
That he's singing into the intercom when his
I
girlfriend
kiss you all over and again.
Yeah. That was like one of the few Exile songs that I knew before. And then, so I'm like, I do my homework before I play, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what am I? This is a huge room. This is our 50th anniversary, and I'm opening an acoustic. Like, this is going to go over so shittily, because it's not going to work. And it went over fine, and those guys were super nice. But I watched their set, and they played they played a lot of songs that the bass player had written, and it was the same thing. It was like just hit after hit after hit after hit after hit, and just kind of goes back to that whole thing we were talking about earlier. The guys that have longevity at any in any business, like, there's a reason for it. It's not because they got lucky. It's because they had the skill set and they worked their ass off. So I think it's cool. And I'm reminded of that a lot living in Nashville. That's one of the good things about it is, you might go to a songwriter showcase or writers round or whatever. Especially, some of the old heads, you just hear huge song after huge song after huge song. This is kind of a roundabout way answer to the starstruck question. So years ago, I was me and my wife we were at the Bluebird Cafe, which is a big famous place. They're not big at all, very small, but famous place in Nashville. That's known for their songwriter rounds. And so my father-in-law, his name's Joe Leathers. He's a phenomenal songwriter. It was a round that he was in, and it was him, a songwriter named Steve Bogard, songwriter named Kyle Jacobs, and I'm trying to remember who else was in that round, but it was just hit after hit after hit after hit. And kind of what people do at Bluebird sometimes is when it gets around to like the last couple of rounds, like the riders in the round will invite someone to play and sing a song. And so Joe invited me to come to play a song in the round. And then a friend of Joe's also got up named Ken Johnson. Anyway, the last round of songs I was the last one to play in the round. Because of me, I got invited up, and so did Ken. And the last songs that were played in the round were I Get Carried Away, that Steve Bogard played, that George Strait cut. Joe played either Hemingway's Whiskey, that he wrote with Guy Clark, that was a platinum single for Kenny Chesney, or he played Tough for Craig Morgan, which is also a huge song. Then Ken played, oh God, I forget the name, but it's I can hear it, but Harry Connick Jr. cut, and then another song that was cut by Etta James, and then I had to like follow up, like I was the last play after these songs in a row, and it was definitely the feeling like, all right, Junior, like, you better go help because we know what we just played, and it was just a cool moment. You don't have another choice. Like, you have to just go, you have to give it hell, give it everything you got, so at that point I just put out a record called I Rode the Wild Horses, and I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, like, I don't have the cuts that these guys do, like George Strait didn't cut my song, like Harry Connick Jr. damn sure didn't, like, but I wrote this song by myself, and if I'm going to play any of them, I'm going to play, I Rode the Wild Horses, because I know that, it's from my perspective. So for better or worse, and it went off fine, but it was a cool moment in that, that those guys like shared with me, and they didn't have to, so I guess, like I said, it's, maybe the answer to all that is like, I'm starstruck more by the riders. Um, and don't get me wrong, man, like, you know, if George Strait like came and knocked on the door, I'd probably be pretty freaking starstruck, right? Um, but the song, I'm so blown away by songs, and um, maybe because the lifespan's longer. And I know how hard it is to write, or I know how hard it is to try to write a great song. I don't know if I've ever written a great song, like a truly great song. Um, so I just, those like little memories like that, man, they're just, I'm kind of more struck by that than anything else, but I'm glad that I have those for sure, you know.
I think that's really cool. And earlier you mentioned about, how people can become, kind of attached to the person and the guy singing. And I obviously this is the first time any of us have interacted, and just chatting with you. There's a lot of people that could sit here and name drop for 20 minutes, but you're just talking about the moments. I think that's really cool. I think that's what, is what's going to make people be attracted to you and your sound and your music and your stories is little things like that. So I say kudos to you for, thinking of the cool moments rather than this guy and this guy. Cause I think that's what's pretty special about in the world of music or rodeo or whatever you're in. At the end of the day, people don't care if you were 90. They love hearing cool stories and hearing cool moments, and the same in music. So I think that's been the coolest thing, is to sit here, is hear you give those cool stories and those cool moments. Cause I think that's what people want to hear about an artist.
Well, thank you. I think I just talked too much.
Well, we've been talking about Clint Black and cool stories and the Bluebird in Nashville, but I mean, let's talk about your music. We haven't even really dug into what's on the horizon. I know I was just able to find it on iTunes and have a few listens of Everybody Wants to Be a Cowboy, and you got new albums coming and new music. So let's dive into what we've
Yeah.
been waiting to talk about is your music and the stuff that's coming out, because it sounds awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. 2 weeks from now. So, August 11th, a song called Gone Are the Days is coming out. I wrote that with a friend of mine named Austin Plain up here. And, the cool thing I think about the amount of time that I've lived here is, sometimes your circle gets bigger and then smaller, so I have this kind of small circle of songwriters that I write with, a good bit, that it's just easy. It's just, we're all on the same kind of like, we're on the same wavelength, or on the same, on the same page. And so that song, it just kind of started out like, uh, one of us threw out that line like at the bar when we were hanging out, and then we got together and wrote the song, and it happened really fast. And it ended up being one of my favorite songs on the album. And then in September, I'll release a song called Love Like the Old Days, which is really special to me. My wife, who will tell you that she's not a singer, sang on it, and she sounds incredible. And it's such a, stuff like that right now at this point in my life is such a full circle. Like, it's just, the more wholesome it can be, man. Like, that's where the good shit is, for me. That's where it all makes sense. That's where life all makes sense, with who I'm as a person, as a husband, but who I am as a songwriter. And I'm really proud of that song. And I wrote it on an airplane with a songwriter friend of mine named Aaron Ratier. By happenstance, he's one of my favorite songwriters in town, and he's an in-demand guy. So anytime that we would have a date on the calendar, it would get moved, because like what'll happen is, like, if I get a big hit like tomorrow, all of a sudden, and like if I have a publishing deal, all of a sudden my calendar will fill up with rights. Well, if I'm writing with Joe Blow, I'm just a regular dude off the street. I'll have that date on the calendar, and that date is subject to move if so and so at Universal or Sony, is looking to write that date. You see what I'm saying? You kind of get bumped a little bit. So that was happening a lot, which is a great problem to have for Aaron for sure. And we were flying back to Nashville from Austin. We just happened to be on the same flight. And he's like, man, I'm so sorry that these dates haven't worked out. And we were like talking across the aisle. We were talking over a guy. I was sitting in the middle seat, which was really funny, but we were like talking over this guy, and he's like, we got 2 hours, man. You want to write one right now? And the guy was like, do y'all want to just switch seats? I was like, that would be fantastic. But I pulled out my journal, and then he pulled out his, and I said, man, I got this idea. It's just a love song, and it's not reinventing the wheel or anything, but it's called Love Like the Old Days. And then he circled on his journal, no shit. He circled on his journal, Old Fashioned Love. And we were like, what the like, yeah, that's what we write, And it's I know it sounds like such a basic idea, but it's there's a reason why it's like the last single coming out for the record. It ended up being one of my favorite songs. And then the record will come out September 29th. So touring, and we'll shoot a music video, and just, it's album cycles I was about to say they're fun, but I'd be lying. They're stressful. But as long as I always say, as long as the phone's ringing, it's all good. As long as you're busy, it's all good. And I've been busy, and so I'm happy. I do look forward to having the record out, and hopefully just being on the road. And when that's the primary focus, and not having to like work the admin of putting out a record, then you can rest a little easier. There's just so many moving parts of putting out a record. But this has been such a labor of love. I'm so proud of it. For me, your favorite thing you put out should always be the last thing that you put out. And this is my favorite thing that I've put out, and it's a little different from everything else, and it's taken a lot of life to write these songs. And I don't think it becomes any easier, but there is the realization, I think, the older that you get, of like, it's an easier pill to swallow. Like, when you put these songs out, they're not yours anymore, and you can't control what happens to them, and you hope that they connect, and you hope that, shit, like 60,000 songs get released to Spotify a day, and 100, like, then, yeah, like 110 or 100 or 110,000 get released on Fridays, when that's when albums usually come out. So, anymore, it's not so much the hope that they connect, but it's the hope that you can break through, that people find you, so I don't know. We'll see what happens, man. I'm proud of it. As long as I'm doing everything I can to get it to people, that I can sleep easy, but there's always more work to do, so I don't sleep that easy.
And then, I know Teddy's got in the show notes here about, you're going to be touring and hitting some shows. We see you're going to be in the Bright Lights of Sin City come December. Is that some NFR timed shows at the Westgate?
Yeah. I haven't done Westgate yet. That'll be fun. I think one of them is like a party for cowboys and Indians. I think that's what I've been told. So that'll be fun. Plus, every year going to Vegas is a built-in anniversary trip for my wife and I. So yeah, it's I've had years that have been crazy busy and very stressful, and I've had years that have been really fun. I started going to Vegas like my permit year. I was like 18. And by the time I was 25 or 26, I hated Vegas and I was over it. Just the devil lives there. I'm convinced of that. But but since I got married there, and since I've been able to kind of see it. My wife's first rodeo that she went to was the night that I gave her her wedding ring. The first rodeo she ever went to was like the third round of the NFR. And so I get to see a lot of this stuff like kind of for the first time through her eyes. And that's been cool because our world is, it's not foreign to her anymore, but it was, um, so that's kind of brought this different kind of perspective, like of, I'm obviously not acting how I would have acted when I was 20, 21 years old, in Las Vegas. And
Maybe just one night when you're there.
dude, I can't handle it anymore, man. There's not a
Me neither.
IVs on the planet to make me feel okay after those long nights. But uh, yeah, so I don't hate it as much anymore. Vegas is fine, and yeah, yeah. So, but we'll be there. I'd have to look at the dates.
It's okay. We got
13th,
it. 14th and 15th.
14th and 15th. See, I'm glad
Yeah.
you got it.
It's okay. We're on it. 14th, 15th.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I gotta ask one quick thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I got two things. I got Tiger Warrior and Heath the Moss. I had to bring that up, so we can get to that here in a bit.
Yeah.
But then Cowboy Shit in a song. There's not many country music songs that are explicit in the lyrics, but it just so happens that the name of our show is Cowboy Shit, and you have it in a song. So we gotta hit those 2 points before we wrap it up.
Sure. So what do you want to know about the song?
Okay, what do we want to know, Dustin?
Well, we'd like to hear the backstory and why you put Cowboy Shit in a song.
Yeah. Did you know about us? Thanks for that.
No,
just kidding.
Well, so the reason why, so a friend of mine, White Cody, Cote, if you want to split hairs about it, his family is from, I guess, southwest Minnesota, like South Dakota border, and he has a Western background. And he was talking about, we were writing one day, and he was talking about, obviously, extremely long story, very short. The new rise of the popularity of Western culture is in the long run good for all of us, right? But with anything, it's like, sometimes it gets accidentally bastardized, or like there's no reason why like the models and like Stetson ads should be wearing their hats backwards. You know what I mean? Like that, and that stuff like. But at the same time, it's like the popularity of Western culture and apparel probably hadn't been this high since the 80s. Like urban cowboy days. Like seriously, it's huge. But especially in Nashville, we were talking about a lot of these songs that were coming out, these Music Row, these commercial country, like Nashville radio songs. Now all of a sudden you have to slip in the cowboy, but it was like these songwriters that I forgot who penned the quote. It's a old rancher quote, but it wasn't a Boots O'Neill quote, but it was anyway. The quote was, I could tell a cowboy even if he wasn't wearing any clothes, type of thing. And it's the same thing with cowboy songs and rodeo songs. Like we know the difference. We can tell like who has the vocabulary, who doesn't. And just it's like it seems like here recently, the word cowboy or those types of storylines has been just as interchangeable as like, the word truck was, years before. But now it's like all these, kind of cowboy songs, but it's not written by cowboys. So we were kind of talking about that. And then we were talking about like, all these kind of like Broadway cowboys in Nashville, like now if you go down Broadway, they have like the buy 2 pairs of boots, get 1 free. And like, it's like horrible hats. And, people just don't know. First of all, people don't know. Second of all, there's not a cowboy culture here, and we were just kind of talking about that, and how a lot of these folks don't know. And but we'd also like had the the conversation of like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. In the long run, like shows like Yellowstone and and movies and magazines, and it's all good. It's all good for us. It's good for rodeo. It's good for cowboy culture. It's all good in general. So we were just kind of messing around with some lines, and wrote it as just kind of a half-hearted, like tongue-in-cheek kind of joke of a song, like not a joke of a song, but of yeah. I mean, it's the hook is pretty jokey. Like everybody wants to be a cowboy till it's time to do cowboy shit. But even though like we're kind of referencing some of the stuff that's like uh, easy targets, kind of bless your heart targets,
Yeah.
this I think remains the same. Like kind of put up or shut up, right? And we wrote it, and then we kind of looked at each other and was like, probably nobody will cut this, right? And he's like, I don't know who would cut it. I was like, shit, I'll cut it. He's like, oh, cool. I don't think he believed me. I was like, no, I'm being serious. I'll cut it, Um, and the funny thing is, I don't know where I get off. Like, I've lived here for 11 years and hadn't been on a bucking horse in 11 years. Like, I'm all of a sudden the gatekeeper on who's handy and who's not. But I figured if anybody was going to cut it in Nashville, there was only a handful of guys that could, and I was one of them. And I love the song and I like what it says. And we've all been frustrated, where you like see a goober.
Hey, we spend 10 days a year at the Calgary Stampede. We see it.
Well, yeah, there you go.
It's actually funny when you're. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just saying, whether it be the influencers or whatever, we've all had those moments of just like, Jesus Christ, like, what are we doing here? Like this is horrible, whatever. But I don't know, maybe all that stress about it just came out in the song because I don't think about it much anymore. And I'm fully ready, by the way, of somebody who's way handier than I ever was or ever will be, to be like, this guy doesn't know his ass from his elbow. Or just like, I'm so ready for somebody just like grill me and roast me and talk so much shit. But I believe in what the song stands for, but I also believe that it should be tongue in cheek.
Okay, Heath DeMoss and Tiger Warrior. That's in I Rode the
Yeah.
Wild Horses, isn't it?
Yeah. So my brother and Heath were traveling partners, and when I was cutting that record, I Rode the Wild Horses. It was produced by a producer here in town named Eric Massey. And when I talked at the beginning of our conversation about some of the albums that I'd listened to, that kind of made me want to move to Nashville, like most of them were produced by this guy. And I knew that if I had the opportunity to make a record with him, that I was going to. I was just going to figure it out and make it work. So that's what I did. And we'd cut this song. And, when I was also mentioning before, like I was listening to like a lot of Tom Waits and stuff, and it took me a while to figure out how to write like my, rodeo song. Man, when we cut I Rode the Wild Horses, I had the thought, I was like, no, like my cowboy buddies aren't going to like this, because if you take the lyrics, if you take the vocal track away, it sounds like a Tom Waits song. It's dark, it's moody, it doesn't sound like a country song. And we put out a music video for it with some ranch buddies, and it kind of went like for me viral, like on Facebook. It like had 250,000 plays or whatever, views, whatever. But while we were in the process of cutting the song, Eric was like, he's like, man, it'd be really cool. So, all right, I know I'm kind of like bouncing, but when this happened more in the southern region, but like, at some point during the rodeo, like towards the bull riding, if I got in the sauce a little bit, I'd, be on the back of the buck and shoots, just doing kind of, fake announcing, we're going to look down to the man with a plan, all the way from Manitoba, Canada, on the bull they call a hamburger. And so
feel like
I
I
was doing.
heard this. Now I remember who you are. I think I remember this.
Yeah,
Do you remember Randy Cortieri too? Randy was always up to some sweet antics back there.
yeah, he used to do that too. Yeah, I know Randy Q really well. In
Yeah.
fact, I'm trying to get him to shoot the music video for Everybody Wants to Be a Cowboy.
Oh, really? So
Yeah.
Randy, so I got a quick story with Randy. So he and I were in the same place, same time kind of thing. I bought a pair
Yeah.
of chaps and a belt from him when he was going back home at the end of the semester. And I just gave him that belt back last week in Panoka. He was up here for the Panoka Stampede, and I was like, Randy, I wore this belt for like 12 years. It was 15 years actually, because I got it in 08 or 09 or whatever. Now it's 2000. So I've had it forever. And I'm like, here, man, like, you give it to your kid or you take it now. Like I got good use out of it. I think I need to give it back to you.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I don't know if it's gonna fit though. Shit.
Yeah, is that that thing, you pay for your old seat, but you only need the edge here on a Saturday night, that whole thing. So I was doing that, and Eric was like, we should do this at the end of the song. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, the thing is about rodeo announcing, it's like, it's not like a monster truck rally. Like it's there's entertainment behind it, but it's not a joke. I don't want anybody to think that this is like me making fun of anybody. That's not that. I was like, if I do this, like it needs to be serious. It needs to kind of fit the song. And so my brother Bonner and Heath were traveling, and I was like, well, shit, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to reference somebody. I want it to be somebody who's close to the family. He's like a brother to me. So I called Heath, and I was like, what's the rankest son of a bitch you've ever been on? Like, what is the hardest sucker to ride? He's like, Tiger Warrior, without a doubt. And we talked a little bit. And I was like, all right, bingo. Like, that's it, So that's where that came from. We did it in like one take, And I think I even said that too, like ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look down to the man with the plan. You pay for that whole seat, but you only near the edge. Looking down at the cowboy from Heflin, Louisiana, Heath Demos on the horse they call Tiger Warrior. And yeah, that's where that came from. It wasn't a complete just off the cuff type of thing. There's a little planning to it.
I figured there was something to it.
Yeah.
Figured.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a lot of stuff here. I want to say thanks for doing the show with us. We got one question we ask everybody though. Dustin, go ahead.
Yeah, so we end every show with asking our guests what their definition of cowboy shit is. It might be killing a bug.
That's a moth. He ain't gonna hurt much. That's not already moth eating in here. Great question. First of all, thank y'all for having me. Seriously, like, this has been a blast. Yeah, I'm sorry. I know I've probably talked a little bit too much, but
you're not the longest show I've ever had. I will tell you that. So this is
good.
Great. I appreciate this as compared to somebody that gives me one word answers. So
yeah, it's tough. But definition of cowboy shit is, I guess mine would be when things get hard or when you face adversity, not running away from it, but jumping in and doing the best job you can with as much dignity as possible. So whether it be cleaning shit, or working a white collar job, when it gets hard, jumping in and giving it everything with as much dignity as possible. Like, well, like we were talking about earlier, on the music side, the playing, the singing, man, that's the easy part. The driving, 4,000 or 5,000 miles in a week, and being away from everything you love, and having to, and dropping your, I'm biting my tongue here, but dropping your damn transmission in Billings, Montana, and can't figure out how you're gonna get home. That's shit easy, but being the same type of winner and the same type of loser, and approaching everything that you can, especially when it gets hard, with hard work and dignity. I mean, I think that to me says it.
That's a hell of an answer.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it.
Well, Ross is on tour this fall. You can catch him in I see at least 3 different states here. 4 on the schedule at ross.cooper.com. Ross with 2 S's, obviously, dash Cooper, just like the rest of the Coopers from the rodeo business. But ross-cooper.com. Check him out on the social media, buy his merch in his shop on the website, and listen to the tunes. And buy the damn music, people. You got to buy it.
It's worth it.
Thanks for doing this, though, Ross. Nice to meet you, too.
Likewise.
To Ross Cooper for joining the show this week. Best luck to Ross with his new single coming out on I guess Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a really good dude.
Yeah, I enjoyed talking to him.
I became a fan of him and his music by talking to him.
Yeah, me
which
too.
I think will probably go far for him. Pretty cool story. Tossed around all the old rodeo names and stuff.
Yeah, and being around the same time in the college rodeos is kind of neat to have that connection there. Go back a little ways.
And love a guy who just takes a chance and like, you know what, I'm gonna move to. It's funny because all the names he was mentioning, like I'm like, oh yeah, listen to that stuff, that red dirt country.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I said that to him like about leaving that scene, and he's like, that really wasn't me. Like,
yeah, it's kind of
somewhere else. So really cool story. You know, any Cooper that's been on the show goes on to great careers.
It's true. It's very true.
So it's got to be the same for Ross. So yeah, we'll have to go check him out in Vegas at the NFR.
Yeah, absolutely. Westgate the last couple of days of the NFR there. So that'll be good. But yeah, I guess on as far as things going up here, this show's out on the 9th of August. You all are listening. I'll be in Dawson Creek. Dustin, where are you?
PBR.
Cofield. Okay, right on.
So everybody, Curtis Neufeld and
then
Sean Morton.
And then our 150th podcast is going to be out on the 20. What is it again? 20. It would be the 23rd of August. So we're having a party at HQ on the 17th.
4620.
On the 17th of August. Anybody that wants to come by, come check out the house, come hang out. We'll have a party. We'll do a show.
Cowboy Shit beer will be
hopefully still in stock at that time. We'll see if it's still around at that time.
Yeah.
We got to get a few flats for the show. So
I'll be on the grill. I'm going to get some dogs. Yeah.
Oh, some dogs. We're going to do some burgers and dogs. We got lots of burgers here too.
Yeah. Might have to get some Cowboy Shit barbecue and apparel.
Hey, that wouldn't be bad. Get your little apron.
Yeah.
A little chef hat.
Oh yeah.
It'd be fun. So anybody that's listening that wants to come to the party, just give me a shout. Come by the house.
Do some karaoke.
Probably karaoke, yeah.
Cornhole maybe.
Yeah, we could probably gotta get some cornhole boards, but
some Cowboy Shit cornhole boards.
Some ladder ball.
Oh yeah.
We got ladder ball in the backyard too. So yeah, come on, check it out.
Funny games.
Come and see us. Be a fun evening of games and activities. Yeah. What else?
Oh, I don't know, man. It's
Glen Keely PBR gotta go there soon. Lethbridge Rodeo, Dallas Market. We got brand new Cowboy Shit coming down the pipe. It's delivering
it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's delivering this week. We got a bunch of new designs, a bunch of new stuff. We're going to the Dallas Market. The 22nd we fly down there. Shows the 23rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. So 4 days of show there from I guess Wednesday to Saturday. Yeah.
People are gonna like it.
I hope everybody likes it. Yeah.
Tease it a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm not like a clothing expert or design expert, but I just flipped through it today and I think it's really, really badass.
I'm glad you like it.
It's gonna be a really cool line. I think people are gonna like it.
So I don't know if I ever told you, but my friend Paul Bazet, I met him at the golf course. Actually, we met him at a hockey game in the playoffs a couple years ago. And he and his buddy Dale, like guy that he works with, were at the hockey game and they sat down in the wrong seats. But I noticed that he was wearing a Valley Ridge hat, and I was like, "Hey man, where'd you get that hat?" He's like, "Oh, I golf there." I was like, "No shit, me too." So we got like kind of hooked up, like from him sitting in the wrong seats because they were kind of loaded from drinking because it was playoffs and they were drinking beers, the dome foams, and so we got talking, then we got hooked up and we got golfing and got to be buddies, and then his companies helped make the new designs, like that one that you have there. That one I toned back a bit. It did say "bang bang motherfuckers" on it at one point. So that was a bit aggressive. So I was like, we probably should just tone that one back.
It's one of my favorite hats.
Yeah.
I debuted this at Medicine Hat on the weekend. So.
Yeah. So we got going to bring out a few new designs, but yeah, check it out. It'll all be on the website here pretty soon. CowboyShit.ca. Check it out.
Yeah. It's going to be good stuff. Lots of perfect time for the fall for the new wardrobe.
It's true. It'll be in stores, online. You can find a lot of different places. So yeah, make sure you follow us on the social medias. See us at events out there. Looking forward to the 150th. Like I said, it's a little early. We haven't figured out a guest yet for that one, but we're gonna get to it and we'll figure out a little.
We're gonna have some fun with it.
It'll be a fun.
It's gonna be a fun
way. Maybe we'll just put the karaoke on the whole show. Whoever comes out, it'll just be a straight karaoke podcast
Oh, could you
with
imagine?
heckling the entire time.
Yeah.
That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh,
Maybe that's what we'll do. If you have an idea that's better than that, let us know. But if not, that's probably the plan for now.
probably a few, but
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, thanks for listening, everybody. Once again, it's Cowboy Shit. My name's Ted Stovin. He is Dustin Edwards. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks again to our guest, Ross Edwards, Storm Defoe on the design, the website, and keeping us all together, and Sean Morton on the editing. Appreciate you all the time.
you said Ross Edwards.
I said Ross Edwards.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Ross Cooper. Anyways,
Hey,
thanks to our guest, Ross Cooper,
yeah.
being on the show.
I mean, you could easily get me as a famous songwriter.
Are you
Sick
the,
next-
did I
next
say
up.
I'm Ted Sylvan, he's Ross Edwards? Did I say
I
that?
think you said thanks to our guest Ross Edwards.
Ross Edwards? Whoops. It's actually Ross Cooper. We've
Should
got
we-
two Coopers in a row. I got a little
Should we do our
distracted.
closing again? And just,
We can if you want.
but you can't edit this part.
No, we can edit whatever. We just can
Okay.
redo it.
Should we just do the
Sure.
thanks to our guest Ross Edwards?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh, you go.
Oh, you want me to do it? Okay.
You're good.
Sorry, Sean. Here we are again. Thanks again to our guest, Ross. Thanks again to our guest this week, Mr. Ross Cooper. Appreciate you being on the show. Thanks again, my co-host, Dustin Edwards. I'm Ted Stovin. This is Cowboy Shit. Our editor, as always, Mr. Sean Morton. We appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to redo this closing with us. And Storm Defoe, always appreciate you. Make sure to check out those new designs. Check us out on social media, and we'll see you all again in a couple weeks. Thanks.